There we go. So my first, I'm going to give you a short slide presentation of the photograph and what the goal is that you can do with everything. So the photograph obviously is a little bit dark and fairly boring sky, and transform it to this, which is more your fine art with lots of textures. Photograph across to a little bit of a surreal double globe look, with lots of nice textures and colors. The photograph of the bee and the flower to a more artsy color splashily thingy. Now this one is a composite. I took the photograph from Esquimalt across to the Olympic Mountains and the Osprey, same locations, and created this with layering, masking, textures, blend modes. If you are already using Photoshop, you are going to be familiar with a lot of these terms and processes. It's a little bit simpler and easier on the iPad, I believe. So I'll probably do this as an example in one of the apps, and I'll do a couple of others just for the fun of it. This is one of the images that I've took at home that I'm going to be playing with you, and that's the result, one of the results. I have found that in practicing, each result is a little different. So those are the different goals that we have. Now I've put all my Adobe apps into one folder. I'm going to go with Photoshop Fix first. So if you tap it up, you get the dashboard, and it has all your canvases that you have been working on. To create a new canvas, you tap on the plus button to the left there, and I'll bring up all your photographs on your iPad, and you can see you can do Creative Cloud and all the rest. So I've collected up a whole source of images. I am going to, I think I'm going to play with this one around. So here we have the basic interface of Adobe Fix. Fix allows you to fix certain things like color balances, adjustments, healing. You can see the tools are along the bottom here. You can crop, which I'll go through these one by one. You can crop to various different sizes. You'll be familiar with those sizes from Photoshop and Lightroom, and if you use Capture One as well. I'm going to crop this to a square, and you drag a handle and you bring it to a composition you like. You can rotate the image to however you want. And if you pinch and zoom, no, sorry, not that one. That got the composition you like. If you want to accept your changes, there's a check mark on the bottom right and an X mark on the bottom left. Check mark accepts your changes. Basic adjustments is the next one over. And you'll see familiar tools there. Exposure, the slider will take it up and down. Very simple. Contrast, same thing. Warmth, I like slightly warmer images. Saturation, I think it's pretty clear there what can be done. Shadows, same thing in Lightroom and Photoshop, it'll affect the shadows overall. And highlights. So I'm probably going to accept those changes just because we want to keep moving. Liquify in this is pretty fun, and it's pretty nice on a portrait because it'll allow you to take a frown into a smile type of thing. But for this, if you tap on it, you'll see the basic tools at the bottom there. You can warp, you can swell, and you can twirl. And I'm going to start with the twirl. You've got this big circle with a target in the middle, and you tap where you want to have the morphing and liquify to work. And then you simply twirl your finger or your pencil until it's made into something kind of cool. And then you can keep working that. And start creating some fun. The warp will allow you to pull and push. You can see that happening up there. And the swell allows you, probably the best way to show that is right in the middle there. And if you drag away, you can see how that centerpiece is growing and getting smaller. So that's the kind of fun stuff you can do with that tool. You can imagine what you can do with a face. Then you've got your familiar healing brush. You can do a patch, you can do a clone stamp, and you can fix red eyes, which are actually pretty cool. So spot heal is exactly that. You can adjust your brush size here on the left. You can do the hardness, and you can actually show the mask. So I'm going to fix these spots over here, and it's gone. Turn off the mask, and they are no longer there, which is kind of cool. To restore them, you simply do that, or don't accept your changes. The smooth button, it takes out grain. So this is going to be a bit difficult to see on this one, but we'll try this in the middle here. It sort of smooths it out. You can do the opacity really 100%, which means your effect will be stronger. And sharpen is exactly what it means. It sharpens the image. I'm going to do the drops of water on the left here. If you want to see the before and after at the top here is a little, where my blue mark is, it'll show you the before and after, I think. No, it's not working.
You need to accept the change.
I'll accept the change. Next is light. So this is your dodge and burn. And it'll be a simple, I'll do the light first, and we'll do it up here on the edge. You can visibly see it there. And if you want to see the before, it's not showing up on the demo, sorry. Darken is exactly that. It'll do the burn. And you've got all that there that's going on. Pretty neat. The next one is color. So this is your saturate and desaturate. So if you're going to saturate something, obviously you can do it here. And again, your opacity goes up and down by just dragging over it. The desaturate, I'm going to desaturate this background a bit. And I'm going to make that opacity 100%. So it actually goes to a sort of black and white, if that's visible at all. Yeah, it's not working. Pop, I'm not sure I like the pop effect. It really pops the color. I don't think that's a very good effect, so I'm going to not accept that. Paint is fun. You can paint a color onto the object. So I've got this pink selected. I'm going to go to pick a color. I'm going to pick this sort of pink here, and I'm going to take the opacity up. I'm going to paint it across here. Sorry, paint. Oh, going to get the pink again. Let's go to that pink. As you could see there, you actually can get a color wheel that pops up if you need it. So going to get to the paintbrush, paint over that a bit, paint over this. So if you wanted to give someone green hair or something like that, you could easily do it. So put a blush of color onto the actual image itself. Accept your changes, bottom right. This one allows you to defocus. So for example, if I wanted to soften this back leaf, I can do it here. Quick. And you can see how it blurs it. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. And your vignette, you can do a vignette, you can change the size, you can change the color by color picking. And that is a very fast demo of Fix. To save it, you can click this out here and save it to your camera roll or any of your clouds. And I'm going to save it to my camera roll. And I'm also going to save it into Adobe. So this is now saved in this app on the cloud. So that is Adobe Fix. I'm going to, my next one will be Mix. So this one allows you to create multiple exposures, layered images, etc., etc. So again, the interface is pretty similar. To make a new canvas, you do the plus button, you get an image, you go to your source, and I'm going to do this one. So on the left here, you've got layers. You can add a layer, you can duplicate this layer. So if you tap on this, you can, if you tap on the layer, you'll see your options, you can duplicate it. I'm going to make this look like a motion blur. So using your fingers, you can pinch and you can twist. You can see how I'm doing that there. And you can now make a blend color. You can darken, lighten, screen. I quite like this screen. So I'm going to accept that. You can make the opacity up and down by sliding. Accept is again the same with the checkbox. I am now going to add in a texture. I don't want such a heavy black background. So I hit the plus layer, image. I am going to bring in one of my favorite textures, which is this one.
Kathryn, can I just interrupt for a moment?
Yes.
We just have a few questions on the chat, and one of them was asking about were you copying over the original? I think in the first piece of software. Where you're writing over the original. Yeah.
It makes a copy, so your original is preserved.
Great.
Okay. But within that app, it changes that copy. So your original stays in the camera roll or wherever you're storing the original, and this is a copy that you've adjusted and made into a new version.
Great, thank you. And the other question was about the name of this software. The first one was Adobe Fix, is that correct?
Correct, Adobe Fix.
This one is Adobe Mix, is that
Mix,
right?
yeah. If you're looking for them in the App Store, they're actually, I think, under Photoshop Mix and Photoshop Fix.
Okay.
So I think what they've done is they've extracted different things that overall Adobe software will do and put them into these different little.
And can I also challenge you with one extra question here? That I really appreciate your depth of experience, and then you're doing a great job of displaying the different tools and the power of these different apps. And I was wondering, as you're going along, if you could also, if there's some piece where you could just comment on, you know, maybe a little bit about why you're choosing the composition to be a certain way, or you know, kind of a little bit about your creative decision. If you could just articulate a little bit more about that.
Sure, I can do that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Very often with this, the composition of this, if I get the big overall picture, I'll take it and I'll crop it to where I want it. One of the things to remember with this is the size of your initial image. What goes in comes out. So if you have a very small image, you're going to have a small output. So the larger your image coming into this, the better. And if it's only 72 dpi, your reproduction isn't going to be that big. So on these, the feeling for this is I'm trying to go for an antiqued aged look that you could sort of hang on your wall or make it into a piece of art in the end. And this one, I want to be able to reveal that double exposure camera shake underneath this texture. So I need to resize the texture. So pinch and pull it out. One of the tricky things with this one is you have to be very careful. If it's highlighted in blue and you try and resize the overall canvas, it'll just, if I'm trying now to resize the overall canvas and this blue highlight is around, it'll only resize that particular layer. So there are blend modes for this. If we look here, we've got all these different things. You've got looks, and you can pick and choose, and you can give it various different feathered edges, and you can make a mask on this one. This particular masking is not intuitive. It takes a little bit of work, so I'm not going to go into it tonight, but it will give you a, we could get to it in another area. The blend here, the blend modes, you can do your darken, you can do your multiply. Difference is kind of fun, and color. I kind of like the screen, and then your opacity here, you can take the opacity down. So that is the basic premise, and you can add on this one, you can add up to, I think, 12 layers. I'm going to accept that. On this one, there are various other bits that we're not going to go into because I haven't got an image that does it, but upright will allow you, if you've got a tree or a building that has got camera distortion and the angles are not straight, the edges are not straight, this will help you straighten up the picture so that everything is horizontal and vertical. The fill is, I'm not sure I've done this one yet, so let me try it. Some of the times there's a bit of a lag with these things. I'm not quite sure what that did, but it's, I hadn't practiced that one. So I'm going to go back and try the cutout. So the cutout, I want to reveal the flowers underneath this texture. And I'm going to do a basic brush, which you have the plus and the minus, and you can do different sizes and hardnesses. You can actually see as you drag that up and down, the softness of the brush and the hardness of the brush. So I'm going to do this, and it's going to be a fairly fast mask. And I probably want a bigger brush. You can refine your mask by tapping on the refine. You can feather it in and out. You can see how much softer it is on the background there. You can give it smooth or fuzzy edges, and you can invert it. So I'm going to invert it because I actually want to see that background. So those are the very basic ways of being able to do multiple layers and mixing to create an extra fine art picture. I'm going to accept these. You can adjust each layer. You can do an autofix, which I'm not sure I like. Temperature, I can do this. I'm working on that textured background. So you can see that texture background is getting warmer. The exposure, same thing. Shadows, clarity. I think you're all familiar with those particular tools. So if I'm in with this, I'm happy with this, say I want to go ahead and make something out of it, I would save this out and take it into an app that would allow me to, wait, I'm backing up there. I want to crop this. And I just saw my crop tool at the top here. I'm going to crop it into a square because I like square formats. And you can rotate, you can pinch, and you should be able to pinch and zoom. Actually, I'll just make that smaller. and get a more pleasing composition. I like the diagonal of this and the sort of shadow that's falling behind it, so you don't have all that big empty space around the back of it. I might just bring that down a bit more. And then you can drag it around and see if where you actually like that. I might flip it and see if that works better. That might work a bit better. Right there. So you've got a lot of quiet space up at the top of it, and most of your focus point is towards this bottom right hand side. You can go on and tweak these. You can add another layer of texture. You can add text if you want to. Tap to edit it, and you can put in your own happy douse. Come on. What am I doing? It's not doing it. Anyway, let's move on. This is not going to work for me right now.
So you're wanting to have kind of a balance between empty space and then more of a focus down on the bottom, you said.
Yeah. So your negative and positive spaces, yes.
Nice. Yeah.
Yes. So if I wanted another texture, I could quickly bring in something. I've got some text. You could do your blend mode. Multiply is quite good. Bring it down a bit. You could do your quick remove. You get the idea. Just to give you extra interest within the painting, within the piece. I think that is the real basic demo of what this one is particularly capable of. You can save this out into Photoshop, directly to Photoshop as a PSD. Again, you can see all your options right there, and you can save it within the app back to your dashboard. The quick settings I can show you. You can set your different preferences up here. You can hook into Dropbox and all sorts of things, and hook into Google. So those are the quick steps on how to get your head around these. It's kind of fun to be able to bring these in and make that camera shake look that you wouldn't have got in the picture. So
would it be okay to just open it up to questions for a moment to see if there's any questions people have?
Yes, absolutely.
If you have a question, just remember to unmute yourself.
So I had the question of, are you using your finger or do you use an Apple Pencil?
I use a pencil. To resize, the way I was doing it, I do use the pinch and zoom out motion. So it's a combination of the two, but mostly I'm using my pencil. If I'm actually painting, I use my pencil more often, but with this manipulation, I do use my finger quite a lot. Particularly if I'm resizing this, that's about the only way you can do it within this app. Any other questions tonight on this one? Nope. All right, so I had one more on Photoshop that I'd like to show you, and that is Photoshop Express. So Photoshop Express is kind of a simple version of Photoshop, and it allows you to do a lot of things for social media. So you can put texts on top of it with little quotes. You can do lots of blend modes, and you have two different formats. You can do a collage and you can do the mix. So I'm going to do the mix and just show you the things that you can do with this. I'm going to do the mix. You can save things in this top row up here. allows you to save the work within the app. So I'm going to use the rose that we just distorted as our next project. I'm going to tap on that, and it's going to bring it into mix. You have very similar functionalities, but there are a lot of hidden things in this one. So it's really going to take a little bit of playing on your half. So again, you've got layers, which are on your right. To bring in another layer, you click the plus button. I'll take you back out to the your camera roll, and I am going to add in perhaps a second rose. And this one I am using my fingers to pinch and zoom. And I'm going to rotate it a bit. This slider here gives you opacity and transparency. So maybe I'll do it about 75%. To edit this and get different overlay looks, you tap on this bottom right edit, and it brings up a whole menu of looks that you can put on it. You've got the basics, charm, warm, light. I think I'm going to try the warm. Try that one. And you've got the opacity slider up and down again. That will help you there. You've got bottom right, you've got adjustments. So you can adjust the whites, you can adjust the blacks, you can adjust your temperature. Again, slider does everything on this. Very faintly here, you can see underneath the image that the highlight says color, the word color. To the right of it is effects. So you can go back and get different effects here. And then you've got details. So you can get more or less details, warmer and cooler tint. You can do HSL. Not sure what HSL stands for, but you can add a vignette. Pretty simple. You can feather it. You can adjust the roundness, split tone. You can split the tone and looks on this. I think if you drag these buttons up and down, you can do various things there. So lots of different options within that. So say we like this. So, okay, I'm going to take this. We tap the top left where it says mix with the arrow, and it'll take us back to our canvases. And you can see that all those changes that are made on that layer are now in effect. And you can tell which layer is active. It has a blue box around it. Anything that's active has a blue box. You can flip things around. You can do horizontal and top flips. One of the fun things that we can do is text. We can add text. They've got basic quotes that you can add in here. Let's see. Let's find a fun one. So we got the text, we got the style. Again, your slider will give you opacity. You can change the font with different fonts that they've got as defaults. And I normally like, let's do that one, that's kind of fun. You can take the color of the font, and let's do something that's sort of in this range. You can get a color wheel. And done. Quite easy to do that. And the next one is alignment. You can align the center left or right. I'm going to do it as a right. I'm going
Kathryn, there's a, I just interrupt again, sorry, but somebody is talking about something called Photoshop for the iPad. So is that different than what you're using here? Photoshop Express?
Yes. Photoshop for the iPad is a very new, they've just released it this last month or so.
Oh,
and
I see.
It's like Photoshop on your desktop to a large degree. So it doesn't have this simplicity about it. it's more familiar to you if you use Photoshop itself. So these are, it is different. It's actually quite.
Excuse me, Kathryn, I asked that question. I don't use Photoshop, but the software I use, they have a version, they just have a version for the iPad.
Yes.
So, sounds like Photoshop is catching up with the competitors, are they?
Yeah, I think they've figured out that the iPad people are doing a lot of stuff on there. They had to get on board.
But it just seems a little bit more logical just to use the same.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I guess to me, it seems a little bit logical just to use the same software on a different device.
Well, the advantage of doing it is that if you are out at the coffee shop or traveling, you can do it on your mobile device and it's still accessible on your Mac.
Yeah, I know, but if it's if you used Photoshop for iPad, it would just be Photoshop on your iPad. It just seems to me like it's kind of simpler.
It's simpler and it's a bit stripped down because the iPad, obviously, in terms of its computing power, is a lot less than your desktop.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah. I was just curious.
Thank you, Kathryn. Thank you.
No problem. So if I want to hide the layer, I can hide the layer pretty easy. You've got some fun things that if you're doing Instagram or doing something silly, you can add your different stamps and stickers. Emojis. Yes. And you can resize them by pinching. And I don't use these very much, but they can be fun. I'm going to undo that by doing the undo button. The one I do like is the splashes. I wonder why. And that is kind of fun there, right there, considering what I'm doing. And so I'm going to maybe do it as blue. Purple. So you can add these various different little things as you see fit. You can twist it around. You can do that kind of fun thing. Those are the stickers. You can send this to Photoshop. You can do a solid background. You can cut little bits out. This is the one that's a little bit more complicated to do a mask on. So I'm not going to go through that because I think it might just confuse a lot of us. And I think we can also do the different crops. You can do just different aspect ratios for your different social media. You can do a Facebook story. You can do an Instagram. That's kind of fun. That's kind of abstract. I kind of like that. So that, for me, that has kind of a rhythm. You've got the diagonals, you've got the sort of opposite colors that complement each other. And it kind of makes it it makes me happy. And that's the happy accident sometimes that happens when you're doing this on the iPad and you've got the flexibility to do this quick and, let's have fun and let's see what happens. So there's another one that's kind of neat. So that is, in a nutshell, very quickly, our Photoshop Express. This now, if I save it as a draft, it's going to save within this app. If I don't save it, you lose it. So if you want to come back and edit it, you want to save it as a draft, which I'm going to do. And you'll see along the top row, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 images, which means I can come back out to it and edit it again and readjust it and add to it if I wanted to. The other part of this app is the collage aspect. So if you were wanting to show people 3 or 4 images that you've just taken photographs of or adjusted, you can hit the collage and you can add the different images to it. And I'm going to quickly show you what you can do. You tap on the ones you want to select just for fun. And you will say, okay, I'm good with these 5, next. and it gives you various different layouts you can see along the bottom there. And if you tap on them, you get different looks. I think I like this one. So now I'm going to say I'm going to edit these with effects. You can see the different effects that you can apply to this to create something a little different. Kind of a monotone. Kind of like that one. And you can add different stickers and scrapbook pieces to it, cutouts. I'm not totally fond of cutouts, but they're kind of fun. So this is more of a playing for social media, make a greeting card type of idea, I think. But that is kind of nice if you want to do, say this is kind of what I'm up to these days, this is all good. And then again, you can save this out to your camera roll. You can add a watermark by tapping on your watermark. I've got mine misspelled at the bottom here. I'm going to save it. And somewhere in here is my watermark. Where are you? There it is. We'll do it where you can see it. There we go. And you can make the opacity more, you can make the size bigger and smaller. And you could say, yeah, I'm good with that. And there's your watermark. You can save this out to Lightroom, Photoshop, Creative Cloud, make a PDF, everything like that. So up at the top, you can save it and share it to your, as a JPEG, all sorts of stuff. Then if I close that and I want to keep this within the app, I'm going to hit the back arrow here and I'm going to say save draft. And you'll see it up in that top row again with other ones I've made. This one I made as a practice out of some dead-headed roses that were at the Bouchard Gardens. This one was another one I tested out. Actually, that one we just made. This one, come on. Okay, that was another one I did. Just random photographs, make a composition, look for something fun. You think you might want to adjust it, you tap within the box and you pinch and zoom. The whole point is to make things a cohesive sort of whole that look good together. I seem to be into this sort of monochromatic look right now with a little bit of color. So I think, I'm not sure how we're doing on time. Those are the basic Adobe ones that I wanted to cover today. And just show you that there are endless possibilities within the Adobe family that you can do. Now, some of you I know, I'm just going to throw this little one in as a bonus, like to sort of put a paint effect over your photographs. And Adobe has a limited effect ability to paint over your picture. It's called Paint Can. And when you open that up, you have this sort of very simple interface. And I'm going to do a start. I'm going to get a new image and I'm going to paint it over for you. I'm going to go to albums and I'm going to go to for example, a rather sad looking dahlia. So you can do it where it's automated with the presets that they give. So you tap on the one, you can see it's highlighted in orange, and then start painting. If you want the look to be heavier, it paints it for you. Pinching and zooming will adjust the canvas size for you. Outlines, give you different strokes. Of course, it starts to make it really quite abstract for you. More structured, gives you a little bit more structure on that painted image. Organic. So that's kind of fun. As I said, it's limited, but it will, maybe you can save this out to your camera roll. You can bring it in as a layer in Mix or into Photoshop Express and start combining and doing composites and doing all sorts of fun with this layered on top and revealing and exposing different bits and pieces of the images. So that is one where you can do a more painterly effect with Adobe. And any questions on Adobe? How much time have we got left, Kevin?
Yes, we've got, it's 10 minutes to 8, so we're just perfect on time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, amazing software, what you're able to achieve with those. Yeah.
I've just been told that I forgot to tell you that my favorite feature of all these things of iPad painting and adjustments is the undo button. And multiple layers.
Yes.
Undo is your friend.
If only we could have that in watercolor. Huh?
Oh yeah, that would be really cool. But you can do that on watercolor on the iPad. So the other one that I wanted to show you is for non-Adobe users, and that is superimpose. So superimpose is, again, it's a blending photo editor that will allow you to blend multiple layers, make composites, bring in the structures, a bit like we did in Mix. And it has very similar capabilities, just slightly different tools. That's all. So if everybody's willing to go on with that, I'll do a quick demo there. So I'm not going to get to all the apps that I listed because we just don't have enough time. But if you want a more dedicated session, maybe we can talk to Kevin and Norman. So we want another one. So I'm going to go to Superimpose. Superimpose is Android and iOS. So you'll be able to download it for your Android machines as well. So here we go. It'll bring you up into the canvas, and the basic interface, well, it jumped out of it for me, but to add a new image, I'm going to show you how to make this image. I was playing around with it a bit earlier and added more birds. So I'll start from scratch. You'll start with adding in your layers. So your first layer will be the plus. I am going to go to the various different things here. Along the bottom, you can see different albums that I have in my Photos app. So I'm going to go to this album. I'm going to pick my background. And I'm going to give it a 3:2 aspect ratio, bring it down. I want to cut out those clouds on the top so that it actually says, you can see that it tells you that there's the size of the image here, 44.6 by 29.37 pixels. So it's a fair size. You can get a pretty good output from that. To accept this change, I click the plus, the checkbox. To add another layer, I click here on the plus sign at the bottom right, and you can do a photo layer. I'm going to bring in my Osprey. I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to do this as a square because we don't need all that stuff. I'm going plus. You can see the layers coming up there. Now I'm going to need to cut the Osprey out. So along the bottom, you've got various controls. You've got layers, you've got transform, which will allow you again to pinch and zoom or use one of the handles on the edge of the, I'm going to keep it big for now. I'm going to now go to mask. I'm going to mask out that bird. And the mask tool on this is pretty slick. So along this section here, you've got mask tool. I'm going to tap on that. You've got all these along the right, you've got all these different mask tools that allow you to do shapes and feathers and hair and all sorts of things. But I'm actually going to do, I think, the magic wand. And I'm going to, did you see that? I'll undo it. The magic wand took away all that background in just like one swipe. And it's a pretty good mask. So I'm going to just show the masking layer. If I zoom in, it's still left a halo around the bird, which you may or may not want. I don't want it. So I'm going to go to a different masking tool, and that is this one that looks like a hair. It is hair. And what that does is, if say you've got a silhouette like mine, or hair or trees, and you need to get all those little strands, you need to come in and get them. It takes a bit of computing, so do it a bit of little section at a time. You put your mask on, and there's a check mark here at the bottom right, and you're going to check it, and it'll supposedly get rid of that. Might need to make this a better. Okay. Might need to. It worked earlier on. I can tell you that. But it's a fairly good mask. So you get the idea, I think. And then you're going to refine this. It's not letting me do this. Anyway, so we've got that. I'm going to just say, do your thing. I'm going to reveal my bottom mask layer again. So what I did here, you can hide the layer and you can reveal the layer. This little eye shows you a bit like Photoshop. You can put a black background, a green background, a red background to see where your mask is working. So I'll just cycle through those quickly so that you can check your mask and see if it's good. You can invert the mask. You can see there are a few little holidays there. So I might go in, you can go in and do that. Whoop, I'm gonna undo that. I'm going to invert it again. I'm going to bring back. So now we've got the big bird on the background. So the bird will have to be adjusted. So we go to the transform button, and one of the handles, you can adjust them, or you can pinch and zoom. You can flip him. We'll keep him here. Might be a bit smaller. And when you're happy with that and the composition, and again, remember your rule of thirds in photography. So you want to keep that balance and the focal point coming in at the right spot. The bird, I'm going to, excuse me, come in here. I'm going to increase this canvas size a bit so we can see where we're at. I'm going to go into the layer mode and go to a blend mode here. So I'll show you what blend does. It gives you familiar tools, the multiply tool, the screen tool, the overlay, and you've got opacities here. So I don't think we actually need to do a blend mode with this particular bird. So I'm going to leave him at normal at full opacity. I am going to go to the filter menu, and I'm going to look for the effects, which is a look. So I probably want to cool the bird down a bit. Let me pull him in a bit and you can sort of see them a bit better. You can see the differences of the different effects taking place on that bird and what it does. And it really just depends on you, on how you like it. The opacity mode will give you more or less of that effect. And seeing as we kind of blew I might go here. Anyway, let's just do that. And we have our bird. Now I want that nice texture that I had on my other demo image. So we're going to go back to layers, going to hit the plus button, and we're going to do photo layer. I'm going to bring in my texture, which is, let's do this one. I'm going to do it as a 3:2. Say yes. Let's fix it. I'm going to do the transform. I'm going to make it cover my canvas. This is where I'll probably do the blend mode. I'll go to layer and I'll do a blend. I quite often use soft light, which is a good, but you can see the sort of fun stuff you can do with this, with the different blend modes. That's cool. I think you're all fairly familiar with what these blend modes do. This is a pretty out there mode. There we go with the slider and the opacity. I'm going to go back to darken, I think. And then I'm going back to my layer. I want to make that image, transform it and get rid of that line along the edge there. Within the editor, you can adjust that layer. You can do clarity. Do you see how that texture comes out now or less? You can give it a different vibrance. I'm going to say yes, I want that. If you want to reveal the bird underneath that texture, you would tap on that. You would do your mask tool. You pop up a mask tool and you remove the texture from over the bird. And your settings, you can reduce the brush size and the smoothness. It shows you how smooth or soft the brush is. And you can, I kind of like the texture over all of it. It sort of pulls everything together in terms of the composition. So I might just go back to the bird layer and adjust the color of the bird. So filter, curve. Say that is good. If I do blues, bring it to that more aqua color. And so you can, the ease of doing this is, I think, what excites me the most. It's very, very easy to do and very easy to undo, and make adjustments to your bits and pieces. So now if I said, like I had in the one I showed you to start with, I want that bird duplicated, all I would do is tap on that layer and say duplicate layer, and then move it. I need to go to transform and I move it over. And you've got your bird duplicated. And you can do it again. You can duplicate any layer you want here. You can bring in yet another layer. I think you can go up to 20 layers on this, in this app. So again, it's just using your eye and your sensibility of composition and how it all looks and how you want it to look. I think my main goal with these is to achieve that sort of extra texture within it that would bring it closer to being more of a painting. Meld the two together that make it interesting and just have fun. And I think with that, I'm going to have to call it a day because I think I'm out of time.